Hello TBL Kutos family, you welcome back to my channel. And it's been a while I posted video on this channel. It has been somewhat busy for me, but I hope I'm more frequent from now on. I'm dropping this video to say happy new month to us all, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to draft this simple butterfly dress with built up neck in a very easy and simple way. And so without further ado, let's get into the video. The very first thing I did was to have a rough sketch of the outfits I want to make, because this will make my work faster and easier. So I went in ahead to have a sketch, and at the end I love the outcome of the sketch. And after sketching, I have this material that I'm going to be using is 3 yards. I advise you get like 4 yards or 3.5 yards if you want to do this particular style. And I already went ahead to trace out my basic bodice block from the shoulder to waist length. That is what I'm going to be using. And I have my front and my back pattern piece. So I'm going to be using this blue marker to highlight the new style that I'm going to be doing. I want a built up neck, and the very first thing I'm going to do from that very neck point, I'm going to go in by 1 centimeters, coming out by 3 centimeters. 1 centimeters you can use 0.5 in inches, 3 centimeters you can use an inch in inches. Then I'm going to go up by 5 centimeters in inches. This is 2 inches. You can go up by 5 or less depending on how high you want the neck to be. Then the next thing I'm going to do from the very borderline, not from the back neck depth, from the very borderline, I'm going to go up by 4 centimeters, which is 1.5 in inches. Then I'm going to connect from the 5 or 2 inches to the 4 or 1.5 inches, like so. So I'm going to connect the very tip of the neck at the neck point to the shoulder slope where I came in by 3 centimeters or 1 inch. So with that, I'm done with the back neck. The next thing I'm going to be working on is the front neck. So I'm going to be using that measurement around that curved area. I'm going to measure what I have at that exact place for the back neck, because I'm going to be using it for the front neck also. So I have 7 centimeters. 7 centimeters is 3 inches. This is what I'm going to be using for the neck, for the front neck. And also I'm going to be using what I went in along the back neck, which was 0.5 inch. I'm going to also do it for the front. I'm going to go in like so by half an inch or 1 centimeter, then come out by the 7 centimeters, 3 inches outward, like so. From there, what I marked along the shoulder slope for the back neck, which is 3 centimeters, you can use an inch. I'm going to go up by that at the front neck, then connect both lines together. Then for my neck depth, I'm going to go in by 7.5 centimeters. 7.5 centimeters is 3 inches. I'm going to go in like so and use my curve, my French curve, to connect from the tip of my new neck to the neck depth, like so. Once I'm done with this, I'm done with my built up neck. It is as easy and as simple as it is. What I'm going to be doing next is my shoulder extension, because this is an extended sleeve dress. So I'm going to go in at the armhole by 1 centimeters each for the back, and for the front you can go in by 0.5 inches. Then along the line where I marked, this is a guide to the shoulder line, I'm going to be coming out by 8 centimeters. 8 centimeters is 3 inches or more. Then come down by 5 centimeters, which is 2 inches for both front and back shoulder slope. For the front shoulder slope, I'm going to connect with my French curve like so, and then I'm going to connect the shoulder slope to the 1 centimeter at the armhole. For the back shoulder slope, what you would do is measure your front shoulder slope from that very tip of your neck to the shoulder slope, or to just to get the accurate measurement of both shoulders, in order for the front shoulder not to be longer than the back shoulder, instead of going out by the measurement I did for the front shoulder. So what I'm going to do is measure whatever I have at the front, then take it to the back. You can see that the previous measurement I did at the back is shorter than the new measurement I just did. So afterwards, I'm going to use my French curve to connect to the armhole at the 1 centimeter or 0.5 inches. And with this, you are totally done with your extended sleeve. And the next thing I'm going to be doing right now is to mark 1 centimeter. You can do 0.5 inches for my zip. I don't want it to gape, to have a kind of gaping at the back. So I'm going to be removing 1 centimeter, 0.5 inches at the waistline, and I'm going to blend in to the neckline. I am done drafting my built up extended sleeve bodies, and I'm going to go ahead to cut. This is what I have after cutting. You can see the shoulder line matches together. And once I'm done with this, the next thing I will be moving to is to cutting directly on the fabric. For the lower part, I'm not using any pattern, so I'm going to be using freehand method for the lower part. What I'm doing presently is folding my fabric into two to get the actual hip measurement that I'm going to be using to make the lower part of this dress. So the measurement of my hip is 100 centimeters, which is 39 in inches. I'm going to be using the total measurement of my round hip circumference to cut the back piece and also to cut the front piece, making times 2 of the circumference of my hip. I have 100 centimeters. 100 centimeters multiplied by 2 will give me 200 centimeters. So in inches, my hip circumference is 39 inches multiplied by 2 will give me 78 inches. So this is what I'm going to mark for the circumference of my hip. Then the next thing I'm going to do is, before cutting the lower part, I'm going to take my upper part, which I have from the shoulder to the waist. I have 38 centimeters. 38 centimeters is 15 in inches. So this is what I'm going to be deducting from my total length. The total length of the dress is 140 centimeters. 140 centimeters is 55 inches. 38 minus 140, or 55 minus 15, is going to give me 45 inches. So I'm going to be marking a total of 45 inches for the lower part of the outfit as the length. In centimeters, I'm going to be marking 102. I'm going to add my seam allowance for the lower side and the waist side, and I'll go ahead to cut. Then the back part, what I'm going to be adding only to the back part is the zip seam allowance. This is what I'm going to be adding only for the back part. Then place the front part on the back part and cut off like so. And the next thing I'm going to be cutting is the front part of the dress. The reason why I went ahead to cut two pieces for the dress instead of cutting it on fold is because the fabric was not actually enough. That was why I said at the beginning, if you want to make this kind of dress for a smaller figure like me, just go in for 3.5 yards. Then for a bigger figure, get 4.5, in order for the fabric to be enough for you. So for the front, I cut two separate pieces, which I'm going to be sewing together at the center front. And I went in to add my seam allowances necessary for the front, and also for the back. I had to trim off a little bit of the sleeve because the material I had was not enough. So I went in to trim off a little bit along the sleeve at the shoulder line for me to cut my back piece. And this is what I have after cutting the front and the back and the lower part of this dress. The next thing I'm going to be doing is to go ahead to sew this dress. The very first thing I went in to do was to separate my back piece into two because I cut it on fold. and I added my zip allowance to it. This kind of dress, the lower part, I did not bother adding any seam allowance because there is already excess on the lower part. So what I'm going to be doing right now is to place my front and back piece of the lower part of this dress together like so. Then I'll go ahead to pin the edges of both sides of the front and the back side together. I'll go ahead to pin both edges, then go ahead to take hold of the two edges I pinned down, and I will fold it into two equal parts. This is what I'm trying to do here. What I'm trying to get is my waist circumference and my hip circumference with the M. So the first thing I'm going to go in to do is to mark my waist circumference divided by 4. Then from my waist circumference, I will come down by my hip length or hip depth, and I will also go ahead to mark my hip circumference divided by 4. Do not forget, at the waist side you will be coming down by the same allowance we'll be using to join the upper part with the lower part. And at the hemline, I also came out by my hip circumference divided by 4 plus some inches or centimeters. Then I used my straight ruler to connect from my hem to the hip, and used my curve ruler to connect from the hip to the waist. Then the next thing I did was to use my pins to hold these lines that I measured from the waist to the hem together. I'm just trying to use my pins to connect these lines together because the chalk might clear off. So the way I use the pin to hold it together really helped me in tracing out the lines I measured. Once I was done with this, the next thing I'm going to do is to take it to the sewing machine to go and sew round that measurement. I'm going to be leaving the hemline and every other side. So this is what I have after joining. You can see the two pieces has been joined together, and there is no sewing at the very edge of the side because I want it to be fitted to my body, and there will be butterfly at the side. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in to tape in all the edges round the hemline, the sides, both sides of the outfit. I'll go in to use my sewing machine to secure these edges together. And this is what I have after sewing the edges down. It's neat and it's firm. I just like the way it came out, more nice and cool. I'm going to fold this and put it aside to work on the upper bodies. But for the upper bodies, before removing my pattern piece, I went upward again by some centimeters. You know, initially I came down by 7.5 centimeters for the neck depth, and I just decided I don't want the neck to be too deep. So I went up again by 3 centimeters before removing my pattern paper. Then I'll go ahead to pin down the front side of the fabric. This is where I'm going to be sewing from this side downward, and also the lining too. And after sewing that side, I'm going to place my back piece on the front piece, pin them together along the shoulder with the extended sleeve, and I will go ahead to the sewing machine. If you remembered, I trimmed off the back sleeve a little bit, so I'm trying to trim off the front to align with the back piece. I'll go ahead to my sewing machine now to sew at the shoulder, both the main fabric and the lining. And this is what I have after sewing the front piece and the back piece together. I've sewn the lining and the main fabric. The next thing I'm going to be doing is to place my lining and fabric together, right side facing each other. Then what I'm going to do is to pin all around from the armhole to the sides to the neckline to the zip side, and I'll go ahead to sew all angles together and come back to show us. I've gone in to sew all angles together, and before turning to the other side, I will use my scissors to notch for it to sit well after turning. And this is what I have. It's beginning to take shape and I'm loving it. The next thing I'm going to do is to sew the side seam for the upper bodies together. So I'll be taking it to the sewing machine to sew together. This is what I have after sewing together. And the final stage, or the almost final stage that I have, is joining the lower bodies with the upper bodies. So I'm going to take my lower bodies, notch at the very middle, because I want the side seam to align with the side seam of the lower bodies too. Once I am done with these, I'll just go ahead to sew my zip to it afterwards. And what you will be seeing next is the full dress. This is what the full dress is looking like. I love the fact that it came out as I illustrated earlier in the video, and I'm just trying to feel myself, feel the dress on my body. What I'm going to be doing next for this dress is to add my cover buttons at that very middle area, and this is the cover buttons I'm going to be using. I'm just going to go ahead to attach like 8 of these to the very front side at the center front. And once I was done, this is the main cocoa of the dress. I love it. It's simple, easy to sew and also to illustrate, and it sat just perfectly and beautifully on my body. Thank you for watching this video from the very beginning to the end. This dress will be the very first dress I made for myself in my new studio, and this is why I have not been posting tutorials on YouTube, because I needed to move from where I was using before to a new place, and I'm happy about that. I'm going to be showing you guys how the studio setup looks like maybe in my next video or anytime soon. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you're watching for the very first time. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. Do like. Till next time. Bye bye.